In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the 3-stitch wrap. It's a knitting technique that you can see an example of the 3-stitch wrap here. It makes a nice textured stitch, looks great in lace work. And it's a knitting technique featured in our Cobra pattern, available for download at stitchdiva.com. What you'll need to do the 3-stitch wrap is a cable needle, any kind of cable needle, and of course some knitting needles. I've started out some work here, and you can see I'm just working in garter stitch. You can do 3-stitch wrap really in any knitting pattern. However, in Cobra we use a garter stitch based pattern and do the 3-stitch wrap in that pattern. Simply going to just work in garter stitch here until I get to the point where I do the 3-stitch wrap, where I have my 3-stitch wrap work, and I've been working 3-stitch wrap on these 3 stitches here. Gonna work ahead, and now the 3-stitch wrap, I'm wrapping these 3 stitches. So essentially I'm going to work them first, and then I want to wrap them. And to get all the way around them to wrap them, I need to transfer them off the right hand needle, and I'll just transfer them off without twisting them to, and without doing what I just did here. I'm on some short circs, so it's easy for stitches to slip off. So I've transferred these 3 stitches to my cable needle. And just a few tips with the wrap. I like to keep my wrapping low. I bring my working yarn from the front all the way around and just wrap it nice and tightly. And in our pattern we call for wrapping it 4 times. However, you could wrap it any number of times based on whatever work you're doing, but I'm going to go around here, wrap this 4 times, and I try to keep my wraps rather low, because when I work into these stitches in the subsequent row, if I wrap too high, it's going to be way too tight to get my knitting needle in there. So I'm just going to pull, make sure I've wrapped them nice and tight, and now I'm going to transfer these wrap stitches that have already been worked on this row back to my right hand needle where I just transferred them out of, making sure not to twist them. And let's get these stitches back on my left hand needle. I'm going to finish this row, and I'm just going to show how I'll just finish this row up, and I'll demonstrate now how I work into these stitches in the subsequent row. So I think I had 3. I'll work the 3. Now in the Cobra pattern there's all sorts of yarn overs and working into the back loop of the stitches, but really all I'm demonstrating here is how to wrap stitches to create a textured stitch in your knitting work. It looks particularly good in lace work. Here's my wrap stitches here. I just work in to these stitches that have been wrapped as usual. They're a little tighter. Again, it helps if you had wrapped those stitches low. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And you can see I've worked a cluster of wrap stitches here and a cluster of wrap stitches there. So there you have wrapping stitches in your knit work to create textured stitches. Hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. Check out all of our tutorials and our patterns at stitchdiva.com.